following recording is a production of Kicking Out at 2 in conjunction with the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network and is intended for private use only. For more information, head on over to facebook.com/Kicking Out at 2 or our Twitter handle @KickingOut2, along with searching Retromania with a W on any and all podcast platforms available to listen to archive shows such as this and all the great content of the Retromania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. Evergreen content at your fingertips anytime at your listening pleasure. And with that being said, we thank you for listening and hope you enjoy the show. Grab a pen, some paper, take some notes. It's every podcaster's wet dream to fantasy book, and we are going to do that here on this episode of Kicking Out at 2 as it's Survivor Series season, and we're going to be bringing you our Fantasy Survivor Series podcast here. Joining me to lend a hand in this concept, a contributor, special contributor over the years for this podcast, my brother Justin Rosenbluth. What's going on, pal?
What's up, man? Every time I come here, I feel like I have a new moniker. I was once the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe the word architect was brought in.
I'm sure that's
special contributor. I like that. I thought you were going to say special counsel.
I think I said consultant.
Ooh.
I think I called you a consultant.
Okay. We're basically rating out future job titles for Paul Heyman once his time as special counsel wraps up with.
Yeah, I'm trying to get away from the language and terminology. I'm not trying to gimmick and fringe, if you will. So aside from using the term special, but so a while back, a couple of years ago, we did something very similar where we built a SummerSlam card, a Dream SummerSlam card, based off of matches that took place prior, and it was a take from a show on WWE Network called The Ultimate Show, where they do like a fantasy booking of like an Ultimate WrestleMania or an Ultimate Survivor Series. So I thought to kind of take a little bit from them, we would do a Fantasy Survivor Series. We would build a Survivor Series, if you will, with teams from the past. Teams that have formed 4-on-4, 5-on-5. And we will take certain teams. It won't be the actual matches itself, but it will be the teams. So, for instance, let's say the Hulkamaniacs from 1989 consisted of Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake, and Demolition. Let's say we were to pair them up against, the Perfect Team from 1990, Mr. Perfect, and all three members of Demolition. Well, you can't really do that because two of those guys were on the 1989 team. So I've already fucked up the concept as it is, but that you kind of get the idea. So the basic boundaries and ground rules we're going to have here for this is we're going to do 6 matches on the card. Okay, 6 or 7, right? Didn't we say?
I think we said 6.
6, okay, so 6 matches. So the basic concept of Survivor Series, for those of you out there listening, has always been like teams of 4, teams of 5 face off against each other, elimination style, last team standing, no matter how many guys are on that team, wins the match. And over the years, it's evolved. It's become... It was once a place where you saw like guys that you never saw coexist on television before team up for the very first time against their rivals. And then it eventually evolved over the years into like a brand versus brand type of warfare between Raw and SmackDown. And then more recently, within the last year, they've thrown the War Games concept into Survivor Series. So we're going to kind of take all of that and put it into one. And so each match is going to be... 5 out of the 6 matches are going to be Survivor Series elimination matches. We're going to have 1 men's match and 1 women's match. Then we're going to have 1 men's Raw versus SmackDown match, and we're going to have 1 women's Raw versus SmackDown match. Then we're going to have 1 10-on-10, 20-man tag team Survivor Series elimination match. There's only been, I think, 4 in the history of Survivor Series, so we're going to pick teams for that as well. And then we're going to have a War Games match. And the War Games match is going to be basically... Well, why don't you explain it?
So I think... the War Games match I think that we've agreed on here is just going to basically be... We're going to pick the teams based off of the collection of people we picked in the previous matches. So the best of the best, if you will. We're not going to necessarily book the matches per se and find sole survivors, but we could call them that if we wanted to. They survived at least... in terms of they stood out as people in the preferred matches that we booked. I also think it's important to note, to go back to what you said about the concept here, is that while it is, like Dave said, taken from the WWE Network show, The Ultimate Show, it is also, at least in my thought process, if you ever like watch like, any like sports show or whatever, and they talk about like, oh, if you could build the perfect quarterback, you took Peyton Manning's brain and Michael Vick's feet and Brett Favre's arm, like that's the perfect quarterback, right? Like that's kind of the alignment here with this, is that we're taking the best of the best in different areas that would make a Survivor Series. And I think the fact that we're starting with the thought process that you put together as far as like the whole card is Survivor Series matches is like so on brand, so perfect, because that's how the concept started. Yep. You know what I mean? And to me, like,
they've gotten lost from that over the years.
Yes, and to me, like, I have an affinity for this pay-per-view concept. I know people love WrestleMania. Not that I don't. Of course I do. The Royal Rumble is one that everyone talks about. And then SummerSlam's always the WrestleMania of summer, like things like that, right? To me, Survivor Series is like the nugget, the one that we don't talk about enough. Yep. To me, it's like the all-star game. For everything like you said. The time where said superstars who don't cross paths, who aren't really seen in the same ring or frame together, they get to be in the same ring or frame together. And you get to just fantasize a little bit of like, oh my God, like what would that be like? Or, there are concepts where you're in the ring with someone you don't like. You're standing on the apron with someone you don't like. That's to me, the mental masturbation of Survivor Series that I think that's where it started so long ago. And I know there was Hogan and Andre and all that, but like that's what's been, to me, the most consistent linear aspect of what fans immerse themselves in when it comes to Survivor Series. So being able to kind of play it out here in a fantasy, build your own best of the best, I think is perfect here, because now we can kind of look at like, oh, what might a team from from 89 or 90 look like against a team from 2012? And I'm not saying
just
those
throwing it out
just
there,
numbers,
just
right?
Example,
Battle of eras, you know what I mean? We're taking not just what would it look like for someone in your own era to be next to someone in your own era, but what would it look like again when eras collide and things like that. So that to me is the bread and butter of what this gimmick, if you will, is about.
Yeah. I mean, growing up, when it came time to announce the Survivor Series card or the teams, there was such anticipation, at least on my end, I'm sure on many fans' ends over the years. Sometimes you would find out through the magazine. Like, I got the magazine in the mail, so you would see, and like you open up, and the cover of the magazine, it's like exclusive Survivor Series card rundown, and then you go to turn the pages, and it's like, oh my God, Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake, and Demolition against the $1 Million Team, Ted DiBiase, Zeus, and the Powers of Pain. Or, 1990, the Warriors, the Ultimate Warrior, the Legion of Doom, the Texas Tornado against Mr. Perfect, and all three members of Demolition. Oh my God, like, you would just be enamored. Or like the WWF Survivor Series report. Mean Gene would be in the studio, and then he would announce the team, and then the team would be together for the first time on camera, in a pre-recorded segment, or even sometimes they would do them like with the live crowds on the podium. I don't even know what they call it. Where Mean Gene used to stand on like that stage.
They call it, well, I think I heard Corey Graves call it, it's called the Okerlund position.
The Okerlund position,
I don't know if that's an official term, but
we could dub it that. Yeah,
he's at least dubbed it that on television not too long ago, actually.
I just remember as a kid watching like Superstars or Wrestling Challenge, and they had Okerlund out there, and he announced Randy Savage's team, and Savage for 1987, and Savage came out with Elizabeth. Then all of a sudden, like in the frame, Jake Roberts walks in, Ricky Steamboat, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Brutus Beefcake. I'm like, whoa, like that's an all-star team right there. So like the anticipation is lost, I think, when it comes to announcing and kind of building these Survivor Series teams. And I think the concept has just been lost in general. And I think it's something that I think would do very well in the current crop of WWE.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, with so much intermingling of the brands, you kind of see everybody in the same frame. So it's kind of hard to really position those dream matchups or those dream teams anymore.
And I feel like to that point, too, there are markings of what Survivor Series could and used to be along with like what MLB's All-Star Game could and used to be.
Yeah.
It was an event to watch that game on a Tuesday night and see, Pedro Martinez throwing to Barry Bonds. Because back then there wasn't the intermingling as much AL versus NL. Yeah. Like there was a brief period where you would play some games against a cross league team.
Yeah.
And now it's every day. You're playing almost everybody. So I get it now. It's definitely evolved. But like there was a time like when we were younger, like someone hits a single, let's just say,
Ken Griffey.
Ken Griffey hits a single, and he's standing there on first base, and who's holding the bag at first? Mark McGwire.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Imagine if those guys got to square off in the World Series.
It was photo ops the whole game.
Yeah, it was the coolest thing ever. And I thought, and I think that there was moments like that for the Survivor Series, probably more that you remember than I, in terms of just how long the event's been around. But still, the WrestleMania thoughts kind of start trickling out and start kind of entering your brain there, because you're like,
as a kid,
ooh, here we go.
As a kid, I wasn't really thinking that, but as I've watched older Survivor Series over the years, I've looked back, for instance, 1990 Survivor Series, Randy Savage wasn't even on the card. He did not have a match on the card. He cut a promo basically declaring his intentions of challenging the Ultimate Warrior for the WWF Championship.
Right.
So looking back on it, as I've watched it in years later, you could tell that they were building towards that at WrestleMania, whether it was for the title or not.
Yeah.
Savage and Warrior was going to be a main attraction match.
Yeah. But to that point, I also like the fact that, especially earlier then, again, the card was entirely Survivor Series matches. It kind of gave you a break from the every month the title not that they did pay-per-views every month.
The title gets put up.
Yeah, you know what I mean? The titles are defended on every pay-per-view,
Yeah.
premium live event, whatever you want to call it. Now, that's a nice logical break, especially as you gear up for the turn of the new year, gearing up for WrestleMania season, and kind of, it's a break, but it's also a good time and a new format, or not a new format, but a different format to reposition the board, if you will, to get us to where we want to go to.
It's ironic that you say that, because I just read something on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. It's still Twitter to me. I don't give a shit. The other day, where there was the big chatter recently that Roman Reigns is not advertised or scheduled to be a part of Survivor Series, and that's one of the big premium live events that they like to build, right? And then more recently, they just announced that Seth Rollins, who is the World Heavyweight Champion on Raw, is going to be a part of the War Games match. So there was already people complaining that there isn't a major World Heavyweight Championship being defended or being put up on the Survivor Series card. And it's like, Jesus Christ! Today's fans are so fickle. It's
I was going to say
it drives you nuts. You want this, you want that. Then when you get this, well, I didn't get that. It's unreal. It's
a little bit of amnesia when you get again, be careful what you wish for, because you might just get it, and then you. Here's
the other thing too, and we're going to go slightly off topic before we get into the concept itself. But people complain that currently Roman Reigns, he's not around to defend the title. That's why they put a second title up, and he shouldn't be the champion. What happened to every 30 days you defend the title bullshit, right? You know what I mean? God forbid that they break the rules,
the fake rules that they create.
The fake rules have been broken for 35, 40 years. There should be instant replay by now in wrestling with the way the referees officiate matches, if we're going to talk about rules here. But nonetheless, growing up, Hogan was the champion for 4 years, and I maybe saw him on TV half a dozen times.
And it was a big deal when he was.
And it was a big deal when he was
much
on TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Granted, yes, he worked the live events and he did all the house shows, and he worked double shots, and he was a big part of building their live event business to what it's become.
Just a different time.
It was a different strategy of their business at the time. But Hogan, like I said, it was a huge deal to see him on TV every week. Now people are complaining that Roman isn't on TV every week, but then if you put him on TV, it's like, get him off TV. He's like,
I'm sick of him being the champion.
I'm sick of him being the champion. It's you can't win with fans these days. That's why I've tried so hard to remove myself from those type of conversations when it comes to that. But nonetheless, let's get into the concept here. All right, what do you want? What match do you want to start off with?
I'm good. I'm good with whatever.
All right, so I got an idea. Let's start off with an interesting one that hasn't been done in Survivor Series history a whole lot. That's the 10-on-10, 20-man tag team Survivor Series elimination match. It's only been done, I believe, on 4 occasions in Survivor Series history. The inaugural Survivor Series in '87, the second one in 1988. They brought back the concept in 2016, and I think they brought it back in 2017 or 2018. I'm not sure.
One of those. Yeah, because it was right when 16, 17, 18, they had just gone back to the brand extension, and that sounds familiar.
All right, so let's look at the 10-on-10 match from 1987. you had the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeaus, Strike Force, and the Young Stallions taking on the Bolsheviks, Demolition, the Dream Team of Dino Bravo and Greg Valentine, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders of Haku and Tama. Do either of those teams really stick out as somebody you want to put on the board?
Honestly, not really. I think, I mean, I'm just
it's out. It's out there. So let's at the very least, let's just we'll it's an option, but we won't put it up there yet. I don't blame you. There's really now. Let's go to 1988. 1988. This might be one you might find a team here. So these are the two teams.
I think this is the year where it's like the golden era. But yeah, rattle them off. The
Powers of Pain, the Rockers, the British Bulldogs, and the Hart Foundation and the Young Stallions against Demolition, the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the Bolsheviks, the Fabulous Rougeaus, and the Conquistadors. Out of those
are better.
Okay.
Those are better. Those are honestly, I feel like once you said like Rockers and British Bulldogs, I was like, okay, that's a fucking
Hart
team.
Foundation?
And Hart Foundation too. That's a fucking
Powers
team.
of Pain and then the Young Stallions.
That's a good team.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And then the other team, you said Demolition and Brainbusters.
The Brainbusters.
Fuck.
Yeah. Even the Rougeaus, who are great technicians. They're very underrated for a mid-card tag team.
Allow me to introduce a team nearly 30 years later, going as the concept was reintroduced, 2016, because I feel like we could either do one of those teams against like this team that I rattle off here.
Okay.
Team Raw from 2016. That's Sheamus and Cesaro.
The Bar,
Yep. Enzo and Big Cass.
A good team.
The Good Brothers.
Yep.
The New Day.
Yep.
And the Shining Stars. That is Primo and Epica.
The Colognes.
The Colognes.
Okay.
They were doing the whole whole gimmick travel business thing.
Yeah, the come to the resort. Yeah, I got you. I remember that. Yeah.
That's Team Raw.
That's Team Raw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Team Smackdown, American Alpha.
All right.
Breezango. Slater and Rhino. The Hype Bros. And the Usos. Now, to me, the better team is the first one, Team Raw. That to me is a fairly loaded team.
Yeah,
I think very loaded team, minus the Shining Stars. But I always liked those. I thought they were very underutilized.
The Colognes, 100%.
Yeah, so to me, that would be an interesting matchup against maybe any of those 88 teams.
Okay.
Either
out of the 88 team, which one do you like? The Babyface team, Powers of Pain, Hart Foundation, Bulldogs, Rockers, and Stallions, or Demolition, Brainbusters, Rougeaus, Bolsheviks, and Conquistadors?
Probably that first one. Honestly.
The first one, okay.
Because to me, there's on that second team after
Brainbusters,
Brainbusters and Demolition, it's like
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? They have two good teams and three ehs. The other team has three fucking loaded teams and two ehs. You know what I mean? So, even the Rougeaus weren't a bad team.
No, they weren't.
So it's like I would say that's probably the better team.
I was never a big Rougeau guy growing up, but I've learned to appreciate their work over the years as a team, the stuff they did with the Rockers. If there's one match you go out of your way to watch, and I said this once before, it was a 6-man match that they had at SummerSlam in '89 where they tagged with Rick Martel against Tito Santana and the Rockers. Oh my God. Like, they put some of these fucking bullshit trios matches that AEW does out of the water.
Oh, yeah.
Just in terms of, like, the in-ring, the work rate, the psychology. Like, holy cow. So I've learned to appreciate the Rougeaus more as time has gone on over the years. So, all right, so do you want to lock in the 1988 Babyface team? You want to lock them in?
I would say, yeah.
Okay, sorry. So we're going to lock them in as one team. So that is Powers of Pain, the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, the Rockers, and the Young Stallions.
Okay, I'm putting this on the record. We don't have a whiteboard today, folks.
Okay, no,
Powers of Pain, Rockers, Hart Foundation, Bulldogs, and Rougeaus.
No, Young Stallions.
Oh, Young Stallions. So Powers of Pain, Rockers, Hart Foundation, Bulldogs, and Young Stallions. Powers of Pain is a solid team too. So that's
they were. Yeah, and this was the year that the Powers of Pain had joined Mr. Fuji, and Mr. Fuji turned on Demolition. They did the old switcheroo. They turned Demolition babyface, and they turned the Powers of Pain heel, probably because Demolition was getting babyface reactions, and Powers of Pain was getting no reaction, so they needed a heater, and Fuji was a good heater for them. All right,
okay, so are we still up for debate on the other team? I'm not sold on. I'm not like. Let's keep talking. I'm not.
We can definitely. So let's.
I like that one, but we can definitely.
That 2016 one is pretty good. Let's see what we have for 2017 Survivor Series. The tag teams. If I believe it's on. Let me click here. So, and I believe this match, if I'm not mistaken, was. Did they do it? They didn't. So 2017, they did not do.
Like I said, I feel like it might have just only been 2016.
I think they did it in 2018 though.
Okay,
but it was like a pre-show match, which was stupid. Let's take a look here. Yeah, they did. So Team Smackdown was the Usos, the New Day, Sanity of Eric Young and Killian Dane, Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson, the Colognes, Primo and Apico.
Was it just 4?
Yeah, well,
if it was just 4, then Usos, we're going to have a hard time.
New Day, Sanity, Gallows and Andersons, the Colognes. Hold on. I'm looking at this. Am I looking at this wrong here? Usos.
You said 18,
New Day,
right?
Sanity, that's 3. 4, Gallows and Anderson, and 5, the Colognes. No, I got it right. So Usos, New Day, Sanity, Gallows and Andersons, the Colognes. That's 5. Okay? Team Raw was... They faced off against Bobby Roode and Chad Gable, the Revival, which is known as FTR currently, the B Team, Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, Lucha House Party, and the Ascension.
You know what? So that's a team of guys like the Ascension. That's a team of like what could have been, minus the B Team. The B Team was like a throwaway team.
Yeah,
but like Lucha House Party, I liked. The Ascension, I thought just, damn man, they could have been good. Revival was damn man, they could be good, but look what they're doing now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, as much as I wasn't a huge fan of anything that Gable did up until now, after he left American Alpha, him and Bobby Roode is a pretty square, solid unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think
this Team Smackdown actually kind of gives that 2016 Team Raw team a run for their money.
Yes, I was going to say, honestly, it's probably somewhat equal. I miss Sanity. It's certainly not coming back at this juncture. I'm good with either, that Team Smackdown, this Team Smackdown here, or that Team Raw. Those are both. Putting the Usos and a New Day on the team.
So Team Raw, I know. That's the thing. Usos is kind of the deal breaker for me because they weren't on the Team Raw from 2016. They were on the SmackDown's team, which was. Wasn't...
if you objectively look at it, too, this Team SmackDown has the Usos and the New Day. And if we're going to be fair, I know people have an affinity for, that golden era of tag team wrestling that, the Usos and the New Day are both in the top 5 of greatest tag teams in WWE history. You can't say that fairly. Or you can't say fairly that they're not.
Yeah.
That's me. You know what I mean? But they're both... When you look at their, if you're looking at objectively as a fan who's watched what they've done, and I'm not talking, behind the scenes or, what constitutes a good wrestler. I'm talking about tag team title reigns, big time matches, popularity. In my opinion, the New Day specifically, I think made tag team wrestling great again. By becoming no one cared about tag team wrestling as much as they do now until the New Day had that record-breaking long reign. They were throwing bootios and pancakes around. They hosted a WrestleMania. Yeah. You know what I mean? What was going on in tag team wrestling pre-New Day? And I'm not, in 2015.
Nothing, really.
Yeah. I know we had hopes. We're going a little off the rails. I know we had hopes for that Cesaro-Tyson Kidd tag team that I thought was oh, man, what could have been?
Yeah.
And then Kidd got injured, and that ended that. That was pre-good New Day. That was New Day trying to figure themselves out.
Usos.
The Usos were always in the picture, but they were still kind of figuring themselves out too.
Yes and no. I think their first act if you want to call it, with the face paint and the tribal, like the dance at the beginning of their entrance. Like, it was very popular. They were popular amongst kids.
Absolutely.
So I think if anything, like, all right, you make a point that New Day kind of, I mean, make that tag team wrestling great again, at least in WWE.
Yes, in WWE.
Okay. But I think Usos were always that team because they were brothers and people looked at them as like there's hope for tag team wrestling. And like, I guess New Day kind of pushed it over the limit. So like, people looked at Usos and they were like, well, they're a real team. They're brothers because, you know, you went a number of years where you had these hodgepodge of teams that were thrown together of either two main event guys or two guys they did nothing with,
right,
and hope for the best.
Right. No, I don't. I don't discount that. I will say this, and I remember noticing it when it happened and being like, good for them. They didn't get on the WrestleMania card until WrestleMania 34. The Usos, the main card.
Yeah, that's true.
Which
that is true.
To me was criminal because of everything you're saying. Yeah. But by that time, who had already ushered it in? Who had made it what it was? I'm not calling the New Day's pioneers by any stretch.
Yeah.
But to me, the New Day became, I don't want to act like I know what the inside of Vince McMahon looks like. God, I would never want to know in a lot of respects. Yeah. But to me, that 2016
might be an accessory
year
to the fact that some of them sexual assault charges,
exactly, right.
That's all about.
So 2016, when they kind of like burst on the scene and really solidified themselves, to me, they became, in my opinion, what Vince McMahon, his small handful of like, I can rely on this team to help carry this ship. You know what I mean? You had Roman Reigns.
They were a flagship.
Seth. Yes, they were. They were a pillar, if you will.
Yeah.
Which
I hate that term.
Right. Right. Exactly. And I get that. They were for the time that they were at their hottest. We have to find a spot on the show for them.
Yep.
And it has to be something meaningful.
Yeah.
Which is why, in many respects, when they didn't get a spot on the following year's WrestleMania, that's when it made sense for them to host, and it actually was something cool. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like they weren't a part of the show.
Yeah,
so
it wasn't like they came out at the beginning of the show and they were like, "All right, that's it, we're done." Like most of those hosts, like when Hogan hosted, or even when The Rock. Well, no, The Rock he had a significant role, but you know what I mean. Like guys that when they host, they bring them out at the beginning of the show, they do their fucking song and dance, and then that's the end of it.
Yeah,
and they go away. New Day did have a role in one of the matches too when the Hardys returned as well. So I like that idea.
So in that sense, like I said, I think the New Day. So again, going back to the match here, the New Day and the Usos, for everything we just said, are top 5 all-timers in WWE history as far as tag teams are concerned. So in my opinion, just based off of that, we're talking ourselves into putting that team against that 88 team.
All right, I like that. I like that idea. Even though I like that Raw 2016 team, which will go back again, Gallows and Anderson, New Day, The Bar, Sheamus and Cesaro, which was one of the few makeshift tag teams that they put together that was done really well. If we're going to talk about that. Like, that was done really well. Both those guys acclimated well with each other. I'm sure it helped that they were both friends behind the scenes with each other. But nonetheless, you had The Bar, you had New Day, you had Gallows and Anderson, you had Enzo and Cass, and then you had the Colognes. So,
now, I guess the way to kind of really analyze it from each side is, of those two teams, what matchups with the 1988 team are most intriguing? You know what I mean? If we're going to put it together.
All right, so let's look at that. All right, so let's say if we're going to, it sounds like we're both leaning towards Team Smackdown from 2018.
Yeah, but let's
So let's look at that here. All right, Usos versus the Hearts, Brett and Anvil. Okay,
or Usos versus the Rockers.
Usos versus the Rockers, or the Colognes versus the British Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Gallows and Anderson versus Powers of Pain.
I think you look at that, Gallows and Anderson versus the Rockers. Just imagine the type of dynamic there in a match where they're beating up on the pretty boys. You know what I mean? Young Stallion, same thing. You know what I mean?
Or even the same could be said for the Powers of Pain against the Usos.
Yeah,
the big monsters beating on these two flyers, or even the Colognes.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't think we really need to go any further. If I'm going to pick a team to face that 1988 Survivor Series team, I'm going with Team Smackdown from 2018.
Let's
All right, let's lock it in. So the first match booked for Survivor Series, our Fantasy Survivor Series card, is the 10-on-10, 20-man Tag Team Survivor Series Classic Elimination match. That is a mouthful. 1988, we had the Powers of Pain, the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, the Rockers, and the Young Stallions taking on the team of Team Smackdown from 2018, which consisted of the Usos, the New Day, Sanity, Gallows and Anderson, and the Colognes. Now, all of these guys are... We can't... So here's something to think about, too, here, okay? Before we lock this in, all right? I mean, we've kind of locked it in, but we are eliminating two huge names on that 1988 team, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's be fair, though. We are in the team format.
Yes.
It's not like Montreal's on the table. It's not like 1992 is on the table.
No.
It's not like 1996 is on the table in terms of big matches.
But
I do think about a team of mine that just came off the board for later.
2006.
Yes,
Shawn Hunter.
Yes, Team DX.
The Hardys.
But I'm okay with that. When I was looking at my teams in that category, it wasn't the highest ranked team.
No. Okay. All right, that's fair. Okay, but yeah, that's something that came to mind. All right, so that's the first match that is locked in. The 10-on-10 Classic Survivor Series match. Team Smackdown from 2018 against the Babyface team from 1988, captained by the Powers of Pain. All right, let's go with something that might be a little more challenging. Let's go with the ladies.
Sure.
Okay. What are some teams from the ladies that come to mind that intrigue you that could be the centerpiece of this ladies? And this is the standard ladies Survivor Series match. This is not the Raw versus SmackDown. We will get to those shortly.
Okay, you're going to have to bear with me here. So
okay.
I would say maybe you kind of jump in there first.
Okay.
Just because I've got two phones here where I'm pulling up these lists from.
So. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So from what I recall, so there was a ladies match in 1987. Okay. And the only real noteworthy individuals in that match were, I believe, the Fabulous Moolah and Sensational Sherry. There wasn't a whole lot of star power in that match. However, 2008... Oh, wait a minute. Okay. So the women's match in 2008 was actually a Raw and SmackDown 5-on-5 women's match. I didn't realize that. Okay. So maybe we shift gears and go the women's brand match if you want to do that.
Well, we can do whatever. We're picking whatever team, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but I'm trying to keep within the Raw. Like when it comes,
if this is just women, we'll
stick it to straight up just women's.
That's what we're on right now, and that's fine.
Match.
That's fine.
Okay,
because I think there's a way to go about this. That actually, I'm looking at one year's show. I'm looking at 2019, where you had Team Raw versus Team SmackDown versus Team NXT. That's 3 teams to choose from.
Okay,
just if we're talking about volume here, there is a pretty good team all across the board in all of these. Team NXT, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, now known as Io Sky, and Toni Storm. It's a pretty fucking stacked team outside of Candice LeRae. No disrespect. Team Raw, Charlotte, Natalya, Asuka, Kairi Sane, and Sarah Logan. Team SmackDown, Sasha, Carmella, Dana Brooke, Lacey Evans, Nikki Cross. So that's clearly the runt of the group.
Yeah.
But those are some pretty fucking stacked teams.
Okay.
And I think probably Raw or NXT.
I like that NXT team.
As good options to face a team in the earlier years of Survivor Series.
Okay.
I think there's an opportunity there to really look at matchups there that make us go, ooh.
All right, so
that could be cool.
So here, I got something for you. So in 2009, we had Team Mickie James versus Team Michelle McCool. Mickie James' team consisted of Mickie James as the captain, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly, and Melina. They took on Team Michelle McCool, which consisted of Michelle McCool, Alicia Fox, Beth Phoenix, Jillian Hall, and Layla. The Mickie James team intrigues me because you got Mickie, you got Gail Kim, and you got Melina. There are 3 studs when it comes to women's wrestling.
What year is this again?
That's 2009.
2009. Okay. Let me jump into 2008 really quick. 2008. Ooh, here's a team that I think might be good. Team Smackdown 2008. We are talking Maria, Maurice, Michelle McCool, Natalia, and Victoria.
That is a good team.
That's a pretty loaded team. I like that one. There is some crossover with Natalia, so that would take, I think, Team Raw from 2019 off the board.
Yep.
In a matchup there, hypothetical. Then Team Raw in that match against the SmackDown team is Beth Phoenix, Candice Michelle, Jillian Hall, Kelly, and Mickey James. So that's a team.
Beth and Mickey are the real standouts for that team.
So I like that SmackDown team, though. That's a good-looking team.
That's not a bad team.
It's a young Natalia, an experienced Victoria, an up-and-coming Michelle McCool, and then Maria and Maurice are kind of rare. But there's that. Mm-hmm. Go into 2010 and see what we have here.
I don't believe they had a team in 2010, if I'm not mistaken, or a women's match. I could be wrong.
Let me see here. No, it doesn't look like they did. All right. This was a couple years where they kind of like, meh.
They bounced around the idea of doing women's matches.
Just the concept itself kind of didn't really have an identity.
Yeah, 11 they didn't do it. Let me see if 12. 12 did they have? 12 they did not have a women's match. I know 13 they did like a little hodgepodge match. It was like a 4-on-4, which I wouldn't be opposed to doing a 5-on-4 Survivor Series match and kind of.
That kind of would be interesting. That's not a bad idea.
Well, they actually 2013 they did a Survivor Series 7-on-7 elimination match. It was Total Divas, the Bellas, Brie and Nikki, Eva Marie, and the Funkadactyls, and JoJo and Natalia against the True Divas of AJ Lee, Oksana, Alicia Fox, Caitlin, Rosa Mendez, Summer Rae, and Tamina Snuka.
That second team's actually not bad. That's 7. We're going to do 7-on-5? That's fucking nuts. We also have to book a brand match too.
Yep, you got to.
I would vote for booking a brand match.
A women's brand match.
The women's brand match now, and I would honestly book it with. Either I would go back to that 2019 match and take one or both of those teams and make that the brand match. It might not even be the SmackDown team.
Be like Raw and NXT.
Yeah, maybe like the Team NXT versus Team Raw.
All right, so
theoretically.
All right, that's not a bad idea.
And then sorry SmackDown. You know what I mean? Because it's.
So let's look. All right, so we're removing ourselves from booking the standard women's match for now. Are we going back to it, or is it?
Well, we're going to go back to it. I think. I feel like because most of the women's matches are brand matches. It seems like.
Okay.
We almost are getting dangerously close to double dipping.
Okay.
I would say maybe we do the brand match first.
All right.
And then see what's left
over.
Okay,
that sounds like a good idea. So let's go
the brand match could also just be that. What was that first? Was it 2009? That could be like the 2009 team we just rattled off against one of those 2019 teams.
Yep, that could be it too. Let's take a look at the brand. All right, so we're going to shelve the standard women's Survivor Series match and go to the women's brand Survivor Series match, Raw versus SmackDown. Here's a team that I think definitely deserves some consideration. From 2016, Team Raw, Charlotte, Bayley, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks.
Fuck, dude, that is a studly team.
Yeah.
2016?
2016. Now this was they reintroduced the brand split, and I believe Charlotte was the champion at the time.
Ooh.
If I'm not mistaken. Her and Sasha had been kind of playing hot potato with the belt. They were doing the Alicia Fox crazy gimmick for a little while. She was kind of doing that, unhinged crazy gimmick. Nia Jax had just come on the scene. Bayley was just got called up from NXT.
I would make that one of the whether it's either women's match, I would put that in there. If we're going to put it for specific purposes now in the brand category, let's do that. I would put them in as one of the teams.
All right, then
absolutely.
Let's lock them in then.
And I almost want to lock them into the NXT team, unless we want to move the NXT team to
the main
the other women's match because it's not a Raw SmackDown team.
Okay. So Team Raw, we're gonna lock them in from 2016. Charlotte, Bayley, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks will be the female Team Raw team for this Survivor Series fantasy matchup.
It's Raw versus.
I like the idea of taking that NXT team from 2019 and putting them in the standard traditional women's match. If that's something that you're up for as well.
Yes, I think that gives us the runway to put a SmackDown team in a Raw versus SmackDown match as we have it categorized. So that would be my rationale behind it.
All right, let's do that then.
So let's hold on. We're locking in Team Raw.
Raw from 2016. Charlotte, Bayley, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks.
Charlotte, Bayley.
And the SmackDown women's team actually wasn't that bad if you look at it. Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalya.
Shit.
That was a good SmackDown women's team as well.
So Charlotte, Bayley, Nia Jax,
Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks. So they'll represent the female women's Raw team in this Survivor Series fantasy matchup. Now, let's look at a female SmackDown team going forward. I believe, what did you say? It was 2009?
That was the team you rattled off. It has Natalya on it.
Okay.
Just as I recall.
Okay.
I think it was like Natalya, Victoria, Michelle McCool, Maurice and Maria, I believe was the team.
Okay, let me take a look at that again.
Now, another way to look at this when it comes to brands is I think in most people's heads, certain wrestlers, male and female, are synonymous with a brand. Like over the course of their careers in the life of a show. And a prime example of that for me would be Edge to me is a SmackDown wrestler. You know what I mean?
Okay.
His biggest moments happened, in my opinion, on that brand. When he was at his height, where was he as the World Heavyweight Champion?
He's on SmackDown.
Yeah. Undertaker, even though he obviously had a whole career before SmackDown practically, the brand extension, had so much of a time
presence on SmackDown.
Leading that brand. On the other side, Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is a Raw guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Never went to SmackDown.
Triple H.
Yeah. So you can look at it from that perspective too, like who would represent, and that might just be a whole other conversation, but something to maybe consider when looking at teams, like, or who best represents SmackDown or that time of when SmackDown and Raw was a thing.
Yep. Okay. You just mentioned Shawn Michaels being a Raw guy, and we just locked him in for that Survivor Series match. But I mean, we could.
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's fine because I feel like
he was on the Raw team in 2005.
That's fine.
Yeah. But we'll figure. We'll who knows? Maybe we'll change it up. So 2009, Team Mickey, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly, Melina, and Mickie James. They defeated Team Michelle McCool with Michelle McCool, Alicia Fox, Beth Phoenix, Jillian Hall, and Layla.
I like that first team. I think that team is it when you think about it. Gail Kim is like what could have been in WWE at least. Mickie James.
So she would be the SmackDown team?
Yeah.
But
that's what they are, right?
No, they were just Team Mickey, Team Michelle. It wasn't.
I would put them against the NXT team. That team I would put against the NXT team in the just the straight up women's match.
Okay.
So
we'll go back.
Shelve that.
So, all right. So now we're going back to we're going back to the standard women's.
No. Let's finish booking the Raw versus SmackDown.
Okay.
Because I think we have the women's matchup already kind of in our heads.
Okay.
Like the straight up women's match.
Yep. All right. So the women's SmackDown team would. I'll be honest with you. That 2016 team doesn't bother me.
So just redoing that match entirely.
I'm just throwing it out.
What is it again? What's the team?
2016 would be Becky Lynch, Carmella, Naomi.
Ooh,
okay. Becky Lynch, Carmella, Naomi. Shit. Who am I forgetting?
Pull
Natalia. And...
Let's pull it up.
All right. Yeah, let's pull it up. 2016.
I have no qualms with replaying that match.
No, I don't.
Because honestly, they did a good job.
Alexa Bliss. Becky, Alexa, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalia.
I would lock that in. I would say that's the Raw vs. SmackDown match for the women.
Okay.
In many ways is representative of where was women's wrestling a year before that?
That's a good point.
You know what I mean? And
got
how
all
far
the four horsewomen in there with Charlotte, Bayley, Becky, and Sasha. Alexa had carved out a niche. Natalia being the veteran out of all of them in there.
So we rattle off the SmackDown team again?
The SmackDown team consists of Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalia.
Carmella, Naomi, and Natalia. I like that team a lot. I think that...
Okay, so we're going to replay the Raw versus SmackDown women's match from 2016. We are locking that in. So that consists of Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks representing Monday Night Raw, taking on the team of SmackDown's Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalia.
I like that.
Okay, all right. So now we've locked that in. That's our second match locked in. Now we're going to go to the standard women's Survivor Series match.
And I think we have that locked in.
We kind of have that locked in as well.
Let's just do our diligence here. Women's Survivor Series. So I think...
You had Team NXT.
Which was Rhea, Bianca, Io...
Candice
LeRae. And... who was it? I was just looking at it. 2019. Nope, that was not it. We are...
Toni Storm.
Yes. How could I forget? Women's Survivor Series. I would put that team in.
Team NXT. Okay, let's lock them in. I like that team. I like that team a lot. Rhea's doing big things now. Bianca, Io Shirai, women's champion. Toni Storm's even carving out a niche over on AEW.
Yeah, with one of the very few that is standing out there right now as far as women are concerned.
Exactly, yeah.
Team NXT, again, let's Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair.
Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, and Toni Storm. Now,
it's a pretty loaded team.
That is a pretty loaded team. Now, was it the 2008 or 2009
I think it was,
Survivor Series?
I think it was 9. Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, Toni Storm. That, to me, is a fucking squad.
All right, let's go to 2009 here. 2009.
I think it was that.
The Mickie James team?
I think it was.
Mickie James, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, and Melina.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the team. Because 2009, Kelly was actually kind of like getting a push then. She was kind of... They were trying to position her as one of the top divas.
They were pushing Eve Torres too. I think like 2011.
Eve was pretty solid.
She was solid in the ring.
And then you look at the other three.
Melina, Mickie, Gail Kim. Like I said, studs in that era.
What was it called? Team Mickie?
Yeah, it was Team Mickie. Mickie from 2009.
So Mickie James, Gail Kim, Kelly. Where was the other ones? Mickie, Gail, Kelly.
Mickie, Gail, Kelly, Melina,
yep. And
Eve Torres.
Yeah. I like that team a lot.
All right.
Now let's look at... I think we don't... Seeing as that we saw... we pretty much are replaying that brand matchup. We don't really have to go back to that one and say, oh, what could have been. We're just basically run it back.
Yeah.
Whereas here, let's look at this one a little bit. Give it a few minutes. This is a 2009 team, right?
2009, yep, Team Mickie against 2019 Team NXT. which I can already picture Mickie James and Rhea Ripley.
Or Eve Torres and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, or Gail Kim and Bianca Belair.
Yeah,
would be a great face-off.
Io and Melina.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of athleticism there that could be put on display. Gail Kim and Candice, two just workhorses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They would put on a fucking clinic.
Toni Storm in any one of them too. I think she's another one.
Yeah, I think that's a really sound. That's a really sound team.
Yeah, on both sides. The NXT team I think is more stacked than Team Mickey, but I think there's good matchups all around on that team. I mean, I especially like the polar opposites with Eve and Rhea Ripley. Eve kind of having that diva presentation to her, even though she was solid, worked hard, and tried to really show her wrestling skills in the ring.
I mean, she was I think more so now that she's not wrestling anymore, but I don't know what the timeline is in her life as far as marrying into the Gracie family and having a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu incorporated into her work. But that's a, like, sidebar. I'd love to see Eve Torres come back and bring that element to a mini run in WWE.
Kind of bringing like a little MMA.
Not necessarily a character change, but like just the work in the ring. Just bringing that type of style.
Yeah.
Because again, that's kind one of the
way Undertaker brought it in the mid 2000s.
In the way that like Eve Torres is a prime example of someone, I think, from a time in women's wrestling and WWE history that is largely underappreciated, forgotten, looked down upon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they reintroduced someone like her into the fold where it is now seen as on par, or at least the efforts are on par with the men, like that would be a perfect way to bring her in and make her seem somewhat, not credible, but like, yeah, she can hang. Remember her from back then? She did this and she did that, and she screwed over Zack Ryder and she made out with John Cena.
Yeah.
But like this girl can fucking go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that would be a cool way to put her in. Again, she's not moving a needle, I don't think. No disrespect.
No.
But she could be a solid contributor, you know, on some level. That would be pretty cool. Because like I said, she definitely had the look.
She had a look, and she, even athletically, she could hang in the ring. Like she wasn't, like you weren't, she started out, I would say, bare minimum with skills, and then over time developed.
Yeah.
With her in-ring ability. Not that either of us have any of that.
Well, she had some good moments too. Like, you know what I mean? Like the stuff with Zack Ryder, you know, and things like that. WrestleMania.
Did she double dip at that WrestleMania?
Yeah, she did. WrestleMania. She teamed with Beth Phoenix to face Maria Menounos and Kelly Kelly.
Yeah.
That wasn't, you know, that's a place on the card because of, you know, you add a celebrity in it. That's a place of importance. Granted, it wasn't on that WrestleMania, no less. It wasn't, you know, make or break for that show, but it was certainly like, this fucking match mattered.
They put her in a match with a celebrity.
Yeah.
They must have saw something in her.
You know, she had the skills, she could hang, and it was going to get some extra flashbulbs. You know what I mean? So, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That would be cool. I think she's someone that would be brought up to speed very quickly in this new era of women's wrestling, against that team especially.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, so we got 3 locked in already, and we're about 53 minutes into this podcast. So let's while we're on the topic of the brand warfare, why don't we go to the men's Raw and SmackDown Survivor Series elimination match? I got one team that comes to mind off the rip. Okay.
Go for
it. I want to throw out there as an option from 2005 Team Smackdown: Randy Orton, JBL, Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio, and God, who is that 5th guy? Batista, World Heavyweight Champion.
That's fucking hard to argue against.
That's a loaded team right there. Like, and I remember in 2005 when they faced off against that Raw team, which was Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show, Carlito, and Masters. I was like, Carlito and Masters? I'm like, okay. I'm like, I didn't really care for Chris Masters. I thought it was kind of I didn't like the whole pose down thing. I just wasn't. It wasn't my cup of tea. Whatever. Like, he just didn't. I just thought they were forcing him on us, especially when they threw him in there with Shawn Michaels, off the rip. His first pay-per-view match, he had a match against Shawn Michaels. I just thought it was too forced, in my opinion. You know,
I get that.
I didn't buy into him.
Yeah.
And so when they put him on the Raw team, I was like, well, that SmackDown team is loaded. I'm like, there's no way that Raw team should be able to win. So that's the first team that comes to mind for SmackDown for the men. JBL, Randy Orton, Batista, Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio. And that's coming off the heels of after Eddie Guerrero passing away. And the rumor was that Eddie was possibly going to be a part of that team.
Yeah.
That was the rumor. I don't know how true it was, but I also heard there was a rumor it was going to be him and Batista in the singles for the title as well.
That's Team SmackDown?
That was Team SmackDown from 2005.
Okay. Let me see here. Team SmackDown. Okay. No, I'm not going to put that team on there. I'm not going to send that one out. Plus, there's a couple repeats. Team Raw from 2016, Braun Strowman, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. It's pretty fucking diesel.
Well, but you know what else is pretty diesel? Is that team on SmackDown that they faced. Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, Roman Reigns,
well, that's
Shane, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton,
Roman, Dean Ambrose.
No, Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, and
Shane McMahon. Right? Yeah, I was looking at it. Yeah, I was looking at it.
Shane, Orton, Bray, Styles, Ambrose.
Yep.
That's another one. That match alone
wipes a lot of people off the board.
Not only wipes a lot of people off the board, but if we were to just put that match out itself, I mean, that's a fantastic match. That's one of the better, more recent Raw vs. SmackDown Survivor Series matches.
I think, having said that, because we're talking about Randy Orton being on both teams, I think the first team you mentioned is a much better team. I think that is the team.
For SmackDown?
Yeah.
Now, all right, so if we're going to lock that team in, I want to bring out a couple of... It could potentially wipe some teams off the board for me. Okay? It could potentially wipe the team that Randy Orton was on in 2003 representing Eric Bischoff. It was Randy Orton, Chris Jericho, Christian, Mark Henry, and Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner representing
I was just looking
Team
at
Bischoff.
that one,
Okay? It could wipe off the team from 2006 that Randy Orton was on, was Rated RKO with Edge, Gregory Helms, Johnny Nitro, and Mike Knox. That got swept by that DX team.
Yep.
He wrestled 2007, 2008. He didn't really have 9. He was, like Orton's Survivor Series over the years. He was a
lot of big title matches he's been in.
Yeah, but he also had some significant moments in those classic Survivor Series matches as well. The 2005 team. That 2005 team for SmackDown, let's put that on there.
It's too good not to. It's almost a murderer's row.
Yeah, let's put that on there. So it's Batista's the World Heavyweight Champion, JBL, Bobby Lashley, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio.
A Bobby Lashley who's like the blue chipper on that.
Yeah,
team, you know what I mean.
Yep. Yeah, he was fresh, brand new, like a couple of months in, and they had him on that team.
I would absolutely. Yeah, that's to me the team.
Okay. That Team Raw team that you mentioned, which was Roman, Strowman, Jericho, Owens, and
Rollins.
That's a pretty good team as well. Trying to think of other Raw versus men's Raw and SmackDown teams.
There's not many because I think
the concept was...
Well, not that there wasn't many, I should say, but between something like... taking a guy like Randy Orton who has been just all over his fingerprints all over that event, and then also the time period that team came from, 2005. Like the matchups aren't. You almost have to pick a team closer to today to really put a multiverse fantasy spin to it. You know what I mean? Like you almost have to pick a team from the last 7 or 8 years.
All right. So here's 2 teams that we could potentially put on the board here. Okay, that are up for contention from 2018. Team Raw consisted of Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Triple H against Team SmackDown, which consists of Shane McMahon, Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, and John Cena. Those are 2 teams that we could potentially put on the board here.
What was that second team again?
Shane McMahon, Randy Orton, Bobby Roode, Shinsuke Nakamura, and John Cena.
I almost like that better than the first team. Just interesting matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine Shinsuke Nakamura duking it out with Batista.
But that's a SmackDown team.
So what?
They're both. So you want to do 2 SmackDown teams against each other?
I don't think we should be limited to a Raw versus SmackDown translated matchup. We should be just picking the best teams of those brand versus brand matchups.
Okay.
That to me is my opinion. If you feel strongly against that one, let's
No.
go to Raw.
I didn't realize that's how you felt. I was kind of going with the just Raw versus.
Well, then let's
SmackDown.
go with Raw. Let's go with a Raw team then. If we want to hold it down to just a Raw team, I have nothing against that because I think we just that 2016 team that we just
That's probably the best of the Raw team.
Yeah.
Although that Team Raw from 2018, Angle, Braun, Finn, Samoa Joe, and Triple H isn't bad either. Up against Batista, JBL, Randy Orton, Rey Mysterio, and Bobby Lashley. I mean, a Bobby Lashley and a Braun Strowman. You know, a Finn Balor and a Rey Mysterio. Samoa Joe and Batista.
What was that team again?
For Team Raw 2018?
Yeah.
Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Triple H.
The weakest link on that team is Kurt Angle.
Yeah, because
if you're plopping these people into a multiverse, you're getting Kurt Angle, who probably has no business being in the ring.
At that time, he was limited because of his injuries and his health.
Wait, who else is? Triple H, Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, Kurt Angle, and Samoa Joe.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a really good team. Outside of Kurt Angle.
You put a Kurt. I mean,
I still like that 2016 team.
I'm not against that either. Jericho, Rollins, Strowman, Reigns, and Owens against JBL.
Because we still have to book a regular men's match, too.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know how many more... I already have a couple teams in mind for the men's.
I think there's enough men's that we
can,
I think there's enough men's that we can get ourselves a good matchup there. All right. For pure matchups alone, and the quality of a match itself, let's do the 2016 Raw team against the 2005 SmackDown team. So 2005 again, JBL, Randy Orton, Batista, Bobby Lashley, Rey Mysterio will take on Team Raw of Seth Rollins, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and Braun Strowman. That's actually both those teams are pretty stacked.
Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, Braun Strowman. That looks good. I like that a lot. Braun Strowman.
All right, we got those locked in.
Yeah, I can just imagine like you said, a Braun and a Batista. Lashley Braun isn't anything that we haven't seen before. JBL and Seth Rollins. Imagine a clothesline from hell.
Yeah, or JBL Kevin Owens.
Yeah,
that'd be another brawl.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, Roman Reigns and JBL could be cool.
Rey Mysterio and Braun Strowman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially if we think that Rey Mysterio.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
2005 Rey Mysterio against a 2016 Seth Rollins. Yeah. You know what I mean?
2016 Jericho against, a Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, that would just be a new Rey Mysterio for him to go against because they really are so intertwined. That would be an interesting collision. Rey Mysterio against any of those guys, to be real, especially in that time, 2005, where he was as good as he was going to be, is really, I think, an appealing matchup. And then you look at a guy like Roman Reigns, where imagine if he got his hands on a Randy Orton from that time frame. You know what I mean? That to me, there is a ton of interesting matchups in that one for sure.
All right, so we've got that locked in. So now, I guess you can call it the semi-main event, if you will, the men's traditional Survivor Series elimination match. There's going to be, I think this will be the longer discussion. I think we will be able to get. There's a lot of meat on the bone. I feel like. And there's a lot of great teams.
And we're not bound to like Raw versus SmackDown.
No, we're not either. That's
good. I like that.
Yeah. So the first team that comes to mind, and I brought it up in our opening here, from 1987, Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. At that time.
Who was an important guy.
Yeah. So all of those guys were pretty much second fiddle to Hogan. But if there was a pecking order when it came to baby faces at that time in the WWF, it was Hogan, and then it was that entire team right there.
Right.
In that era, from like 87 to like 88, 89. Steamboat had left. Savage eventually turned heel, but those were top guys. I mean, you could even call Brutus Beefcake a top guy because of who he worked with and the angles he was involved in.
Right.
So Jim Duggan as well. That's one team that comes to mind that we could throw out there. I like the heel team in the main event. Andre the Giant, King Kong Bundy, One Man Gang, Rick Rude, and the Natural Butch Reed. That's another team that we could throw in there as an option. As we go through this list for Survivor Series, let's.
A team that to me that jumps off the board, off the page for me right away, for the most elementary of reasons, is to me the Warriors. They're just a unit in themselves. They are just there's like terms there. The Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors, the modern day Warrior, the Texas Tornado.
Yep.
To me, that is like they are a team. Of course they would be a team. You know what I mean? I like that it's only a 4-person team, mind you.
Yeah.
But you know what? With a guy with a group of 4 like that, I have no problem matching them up against a 5-person team either.
Same.
So that's one team that I have that I liked a lot. Going forward, fast forward to 2001, Team WWF is for the event itself, the survival of WWF against the Alliance. That is a team. And
Rock, Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, Chris Jericho. Yep.
Well, Jericho is off the board now.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. Jericho's off the board. That kind of takes them off the table. So that to consider. Team Alliance, although Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and Shane McMahon.
That's
a pretty good fucking squad in their own right.
There, yeah.
I like that team a lot as well. So good that we were able to open that up a little bit. Going back,
I like the Perfect Team from 1990, Mr. Perfect, and all 3 members of Demolition. I think that was a nice blend of styles, with Perfect being the more the technician, and you have the 3-man unit of Demolition.
Right.
I'm definitely not against putting them in there as an option. Here's another team, and we did erase Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is on the is we locked.
He's with
him
the
in.
Rockers. Yeah,
he's with the Rockers. But this is a team that I think at that time was a stacked lineup for 2003. Was Team Austin, Shawn Michaels, RVD, Booker T, and the Dudley Boys.
Okay,
that was a pretty stacked team for 2003. But we've already put Shawn Michaels up on the board as part of the Rockers. With that 10-team Survivor Series match. An underrated heel team from 1988. Andre the Giant, Dino Bravo, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, and Harley Race.
Say that again.
Andre the Giant, Dino Bravo, Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, and Harley Race.
Fuck. That might have to be a team.
Okay.
I lean strongly to putting them on the men's side.
Okay.
Because I also think we also need more representation from that time of the history of Survivor Series.
Yeah.
I'm good with that team.
Okay. Well, let's go through some more.
Yeah.
There's other teams
I'm leaning
like.
strongly in that one. I'm of the very small minority that was a fan of the wild card match from 1995.
I love that match. Yes, we are in that minority together.
So I would probably go with the team of Shawn Michaels, Ahmed Johnson, the British Bulldog, and Psycho Sid as being a team that...
But we already have Shawn on the board.
Yeah.
But even that other team, Razor Ramon, Owen Hart, Yokozuna, and Dean Douglas, that wasn't a bad squad either.
So there was that. Here's one that isn't... okay, this might be a fun one to at least talk about. That's on that card right now as well. The Royals of King Mabel, Jerry Lawler, Isaac Yankem, and Hunter Hearst Helmsley is an interesting team. They're another team to talk about their opponents, the Dark Side, The Undertaker, Savio Vega, Fatu, and Henry O. Godwin. Another solid team.
I got a solid team for you.
We kind of omitted a women's match here. It doesn't really have anybody exciting. Bertha Faye, Aja Kong, Tamako Watanabe.
Don't even bother.
The Lioness Asuka against Alundra Blaze, and then a bunch of other people from Japan.
That you can't pronounce.
No,
names.
so I'm not going to do that.
We did. Oh man, yeah.
But you know what? That's okay. That's okay. I think we nailed it.
We can save that
with
one
the
for
women.
The next Fantasy Survivor Series. If we do another one. Here's a couple of teams that come to mind. He's already on the card, but this is a pretty good team on paper. The Teamsters: Shawn Michaels, Diesel, Owen Hart, Jimmy and Double J, Jeff Jarrett.
I was just pulling up 1994.
Who they faced? Razor Ramon, 1-2-3 Kid, the British Bulldog, and the Head Shrinkers from 1994.
Yep. I was just thinking that too.
1993. Here's one: the All-Americans, Lex Luger, the Undertaker, and the Steiner Brothers.
That's a fucking stud team too.
Right?
That's a stud team too.
Now here's where we're at here, okay? Before we start locking in matches, all right? Since we're kind of changing some things on the fly here, which is perfectly fine. Okay? There's so many good stud men's teams that we can ditch the whole Soul Survivor concept and just take some of these teams and put them in that final War Games.
We could. That's definitely
okay?
something to keep in mind. Right? Absolutely.
So that's just something that we can throw out there as well. I'd like to throw another option, 1989. Hulk Hogan, Demolition, Jake the Snake Roberts as a team.
That's a good team.
Okay. Trying to think who else. Oh, here's an interesting team. Well, this was an interesting match. It was an intriguing match, but the finish to the match was fucking god-awful. From 1991, Ric Flair, Ted DiBiase, the Mountie, and the Warlord against Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, the British Bulldog, and Virgil.
Not bad.
For 1991 standards at WWF, that wasn't bad. Now, the finish was awful. I think Ric Flair ended up becoming they eliminated like one person, and then the referee threw the counted out everybody, but Flair was the only one in the ring. So they could save face, not
There's a couple of things. There's two matches that pop into my head right now off the teams that we've rattled off so far, and the first is both matches have the Andre the Giant team you mentioned as one team, the 5 team. One set of opponents is the Warriors, 4-on-5. To me, there is an insurmountable ultimate challenge of sorts there, and then there's the other team you mentioned, the All-American team. Imagine that squad going up against those 5.
So Lex Luger, so
Luger, Steiners, and Undertaker against Andre the Giant, Rick Rude, Dino Bravo, Mr. Perfect, and Harley Race.
Yeah.
So part of me also just wants to put that Murderer's Row into War Games, but I think
thinking that earlier
does
too.
take the fun out of picking a War Games team from scratch.
Okay.
So I almost want to I'm not saying lock them in, but to me, I'm soft locking them in to this men's match, that 5 team. And there's the possibility, like I said, of going with the handicap against either of those teams or continuing to search for another team.
Well, let's talk about
I also like the Hogan, Jake, Demolition team. That's another good one. Okay. I don't know if we stay on the 5 versus 4 track or if we just keep fishing.
Okay. I like the 88 Andre team with Andre, Rude, Perfect, Harley, and Dino. Okay, I like that. I have no problem locking that in as one team for the men's Survivor Series.
I say
match. Let's scour and find the right opponents.
Yes.
I do like the idea of the 5-on-4 if you were to have them face the Warriors with Ultimate Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, and the Legion of Doom from 1990. I like the idea of them facing Hogan, Jake, and Demolition from 1989. Here's another team that I think would match up really well for that era. 1987, Randy Savage, Jake the Snake, Beefcake, Duggan, and Steamboat against that Andre team from 88.
Okay.
You got some matchups that are familiar.
Yeah.
You got some matchups that aren't exactly familiar. Like imagine like a Mr. Perfect and a Ricky Steamboat. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh man. That's a good one.
That's just an idea.
Let's definitely keep talking this out.
Trying to think of some other teams that would fit well. Oh, here's a team that I think could do well against that heel team. And it's Team Cena from 2014. John Cena, Dolph Ziggler, The Big Show, Ryback, and Eric Rowan.
Okay, that one is going to climb a little bit. That might, like if we're talking about, that one, let's not forget that one. I like that one a lot.
It's a contender.
I like that one a lot.
It's a contender.
But I'm trying to also think all of those matchups look, I think, let's put it this way. I think the way my head works, the closer you get to that, what year was that team, Andre? 88?
88.
The closer you get to that team, the more inclined I'd be interested in doing the handicap.
I'm kind of
that's you know what I mean. Whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the All Americans, whether it's Hogan's team.
Hogan's team, okay.
I'm more inclined to go that way just to make it different and interesting.
Okay.
Because remember, we're building a card.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
5-on-4.
So if we want to make it interesting, that would be a way to do it.
Okay.
To kind of take some of the familiarity away from it.
Okay.
But if we go further away from 88, then you have like that Team Cena where it's a 5-person team where it's incredibly intriguing because it's all new pieces. So that's one team I would think about.
Okay.
I'm also but I'm looking at this and a couple of these teams as far as okay, well, I can't do that one. Never mind. This is going to be off the beaten path a little bit. Team NXT from 2019. Tommaso Ciampa, Damian Priest, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, and Walter.
Against that Andre 88
Against that Andre 88 team. Just a thought.
Okay.
Just a thought.
All right.
Again,
I've already got Walter chopping the shit out of Andre in my head right
Well, it's
now.
funny you mentioned that. Last night I watched, they dropped, I don't know how, it must have been in the build-up to Crown Jewel, but they did the Ultimate Crown Jewel, and the theme of it was like more international matchups.
Okay.
Because they were talking, they basically themed Crown Jewel as an international event. You know, and even tried to give, and they gave the superstars they all picked. That was the nugget, that they were all international, even some American representation.
Yeah.
So the one matchup that they did actually put on the board was Walter defending his Intercontinental title against Andre the Giant.
Okay.
Yes. So that was it. So that was, I thought, a nice, intriguing matchup.
Okay.
But back here in this world, that I think also has interesting matchups.
Let's find a few more candidates, and then we're going to lock down the Survivor Series.
Yeah, I would say, let's try to find one more in the last 10 years or so of a 5-on-5 team that could go up against that 5, and then we can kind of weed out maybe the 5s and the 4s to maybe
all right,
find out which one is more interesting.
All right.
So that was 2019. You picked a 2014. Let's move up a little bit earlier than 2014. See if we can find a team. 2000 and where? Let me see here.
Okay. Actually, no, I can't do that team. I was thinking something else. All right.
No, I was going to say not that one. Although, so part of why I like that Cena team, just simply for the Big Show versus Andre the Giant. I feel like there's on top of Dolph Ziggler against anybody. Yeah, you know what I mean. That's one that I like. That's kind of like my.
I'm leaning more towards the staying within
the handicap.
The handicap, and then within that era, closely in that era.
Okay,
that's just me personally.
So that's okay. So that's why I look at. As much as the Hulkamania team makes sense, we've seen all of that. Andre the Giant fought both Hogan and Snake at WrestleMania. Yeah. You know what I mean? Even actually had some, and Demolition, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you fought all those guys at WrestleMania. So to me, on that alone, I would say, like, all right, he's done that. You know what I mean? There's too much mingling there.
Yeah.
But I look at, even though he has wrestled the Warrior, you know, it wasn't.
I look at Rude and Perfect as like the tag team from that group against the Road Warriors. Like I kind of see that.
So so the Warrior, and then like the Warriors and Andre. Like I'm like Andre's like my sounding board. Who could bang with Andre?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like my sounding board here. But then there's Harley fucking Race. Oh my god, I'd love to see him against the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I know he's wrestled Kerry Von Erich before, but that's still like in that world different. So to me, I really like that matchup. But then I go to the All-Americans, and I go Undertaker
and Andre the Giant.
Lex Luger and Andre the Giant.
Yeah.
The Steiners mixing it up with Rude and Perfect.
Yeah.
Like, what is most equal parts intriguing and insurmountable between those two teams? I would probably say the All-Americans.
I'm kind of with you on that there.
I would probably say the All-Americans.
Yeah, because they could build sympathy for like a Rick Steiner or a Scott Steiner getting beaten on by like an Andre.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the Steiners have always been good at like bouncing around guys. So you see like Mr. Perfect or even Harley getting bounced around by the Steiners. Rick Rude taking some pretty hellacious bumps from them. I am like 85 to 90% almost with you about locking in the All-Americans from 1993 against Andre's team from 1988 and making that a 5-on-4.
Yeah.
I'm almost there.
What are we holding out for?
That Warriors team. But I got. You know what? Fuck it. Let's lock it in.
Okay. But before we do that,
I'm just trying to put all possibilities on the table before we lock something in. Before we're just like, oh man, that would like regretting something if that would have been better. You know what I mean? We threw a lot of teams out there. We threw Cena's team out there. We threw the Hulkamaniacs. We threw out the Warriors. All-Americans are close to being locked in.
I will say that the one thing that the All-Americans has that the Warriors doesn't is that between 1988 and 1993, those are two different distinct eras of wrestling.
That is, yeah.
And that's what also makes that matchup more intriguing. You could book the Warriors versus Andre's team and it makes sense without doing anything with it. Because they all kind of commingled. You know what I mean? That's not as big a fantasy. As much as I like that team and, bias to that Warriors team because it just seems so much like a team, I'm not entirely like for the sake of the fantasy that we're trying to drum up here. That's why I think the All-American team gets the not all things equal.
Yeah.
On top of like the intrigue and the insurmountable element to being that underdog against Andre the Giant's team. And like the Undertaker and Andre the Giant, like come on.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. That's where I go.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you know what? I like that 5-on-4. I like the idea of Undertaker matching up with Andre at times. I like the idea. There's a lot of different intriguing matchups in that match that I think that we haven't seen a whole lot of or none at all that I think would be more ideal. So let's lock in let's do it. Let's lock in the All-Americans from 1993, Undertaker, Lex Luger, and the Steiner brothers in a 4-on-5 Survivor Series men's elimination match against Andre the Giant's team with Andre the Giant, Ravishing Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Dino Bravo, and Harley Race. So that would be a 5-on-4. So that would, and that's also, like you said, building a card. So that's a selling point. It's going to be, they're already at a disadvantage starting the match. So how are the Steiners, Undertaker, and Luger going to even things up? Maybe they target Andre right off the rip and get the biggest son of a bitch out of the match. Yeah. And then
there's a lot, like you look at anybody on that Andre team and you go like, Andre could almost be two people. Fucking Dino Bravo and his strength alone could be two people. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you've got just excellent wrestlers and Race, Rude, and Perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? That are just that's a hard team to beat. That team on itself might be the best. God, Dino Bravo could lay claim to this if he's alive. The best, like the luck that he can have in just raising his hand to that one. That could be the best assembled Survivor Series team ever.
Really?
That could be. Like if you're looking at it from
It's
a
in the conversation.
kayfabe, like if you were building a team, you're in it. You know what I mean? That could be one of the best teams.
All right, it's in the conversation.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
It's in the conversation. Okay. So, all right. So that's our men's Survivor Series match, 4-on-5. Now we're gonna get into the main event. We had the semi-main event. Now we got the main event. Is the War Games. Now we kind of stretched ourselves pretty thin with women's with these women's matches, unfortunately. So therefore, this War Games match is going to be a men's match.
Well, how about this? Just a thought.
Okay.
So first off, are we only picking this War Games match based on the guys on the card, the people on the card? Because I have two ideas.
Because
it could be anybody.
There's plenty of people out there that have. There's plenty of teams out there, Survivor Series teams or individuals that we.
I think we're picking. Are we picking individuals though?
No, we're picking teams, but I'm just saying.
We're picking War Games teams.
Or
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series teams to compete in a War Games match.
Oh, I thought we were... I'm sorry. I thought we were picking individuals.
Or we could pick individuals.
I think it'd be more fun to pick individuals.
Okay, let's do that then. Because there's still a lot of guys.
It could be a team. We could still pick a team.
All right, well, let's do that then.
But I don't think we operate picking with a team. Like if a team looks like how we almost wanted to put Andre's team in that War Games.
Okay.
Like, is there a team that is good enough? Now, as far as women are concerned, look, this isn't real life. Like, if we do we save a fifth spot for a woman on each team?
I mean,
are we gonna? Or who's gonna chase us down and say that we're horrible people because we may have added 4 men and 1 woman on each team?
Oh, so you're talking about putting a woman in a War Games match with the men?
If we're not exclusive to the card, just as an example, China and War Games? Just a thought.
Okay.
Because I think now we have, if we're not keeping it exclusive to the card we've already built for survival's sake, the match of survival.
It's wide open then.
It's wide open.
All right.
We're picking anybody.
Okay.
Well, but we can't. Are we not repicking? I feel like we said.
No, we're not going to repick.
So if you've already been in the match, you're not going to War Games.
You're already on the card.
I feel like that contradicts what we said earlier, but that's okay with me. I feel like that.
No, did we? Oh, we did. No, you're right. We've been all over the place with this. All right, so we did say that we could. It'd be like a grand.
So we
finale.
could, but it is wide open.
It's wide open. Yeah, the options there. We could pick from the card. We could pick a Survivor Series team.
How about
pick individuals?
Let's find the happy medium here. How about it's wide open, but it's wide open for 4. I pick a team, you pick a team. It's wide open, but 1 pick you get to pick, like a redo. You can reuse somebody.
Okay.
Let's do that.
All right, that's
a match
fine.
for survival.
Okay.
Or not a match, but one sole survivor from a team.
Okay.
Somewhere.
All right.
And I would say, yeah, that would be the way to go.
Okay. All right.
And it's probably best to pick somebody, that one person first, since we're already here.
All right, if I'm going to pick one person first in a War Games match, somebody who's never been in a War Games match well, actually, no, he was in there as a babyface. But I'm talking like his real run as a babyface.
And make sure you place him, too. What year, what?
Okay, so I'm going to go 1989 Hulk Hogan.
1989 Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't have him on a team, though.
He's on a Survivor. Yeah, he's not on any team.
He's not on our card.
He's not on our card.
Okay.
So
team kicking out at 2.
There we go.
Team KOA. God, man.
So who you got for your one guy or girl? Since you kind of threw that China pick out there.
2. Hulk Hogan 89 is you. I would just writing it down.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably have to go with, if we're talking team special contributors, I have to go with the enforcer Arn Anderson for putting up a team here to win a match.
And he's got.
I'm going to go with Mr. War Games himself,
Arn Anderson. Okay.
the enforcer Arn Anderson.
All right. I like that idea. I like that. So he's your captain.
Nope.
Oh, he's just
Not
on
yet.
the team. Okay.
I'll name my captain once I have it all in
Okay.
place.
All right.
These guys got to earn it.
I got
These guys got to earn it.
I got you.
And I will use Arn Anderson 1988.
Yeah.
Which is really no different than 1989.
Yeah. Or 87.
Yeah. Or 97.
Yeah. He never aged.
Arn Anderson 1988.
Okay.
So he's got one less year on Hulk.
All right. You know what? If I'm going to go individual, if I'm going to put Hulk in there, then I'm going to put Savage on that team too.
Okay, you're going with the video game team. Okay.
Yeah.
Randy Savage.
Yeah.
What year?
Like 88, 89.
So is he Macho King? Or is he...
Oh, that's right. That's right. Nah, I'm going to go Mega Power Macho Man. So we're going 88.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going 88. Mega Power Macho Man.
So Mega Power Macho Man, but not Mega Power Hulk Hogan.
Well, Hogan was...
89.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
We're not siloing them into like Hulk Hogan 89 Survivor Series. We're talking now just strictly their careers. This is like a fantasy at this point. We're not even on the Survivor Series element of it right now.
I guess like Hogan 88 then. Yeah,
right.
so Mega Powers. Yeah,
Okay,
Mega
so you
Powers.
got Mega Powers, the team.
Yep.
Which gives you Miss Elizabeth on the sidelines.
Yep, she's Katie by the door.
Yep. So you got Hogan and Savage. I've got Arn Anderson. Ooh. Okay. How can I not? I mean, I don't want this to turn into what it might look like it's going to turn into, but I got to put the American Dream Dusty Rhodes in a War Games match.
Yeah.
And if the silo that he sits in is WWF time. So we're going to say Dusty Rhodes 1990.
Okay. Polka Dots.
Polka Dots Dusty.
Polka Dots Dusty in the War Games.
Yes, Dusty Rhodes 1990.
Polka Dots Dusty. I dig that. I dig Polka Dots Dusty. All right. So my third pick to make things interesting for this War Games match is the real world champion from 1991, Ric Flair.
Ooh,
which I'm sure you had an idea of putting him on your team.
I thought about it.
Okay.
I'm
gonna switch things up and put a heel. I was originally gonna do all baby faces, but I'm gonna put heel Ric Flair on there and see if he can cooperate with Hogan and Savage on this War Games team.
Okay. I like that. Okay. So you got Flair, you got Savage, you got Hogan. I got Arn and Dusty, which will already be an interesting dynamic. Let me see. Someone we haven't picked as well. I don't think we have him on any of our matches. I can't not go with the Texas Rattlesnakes, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Look at that. All right. And we're talking what year? We're talking 96, 97, 98, 99, 2001.
We're going to go... What's the best version of Stone Cold Steve Austin? I'm going to go 1997 Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay, yep. I like that year.
97.
I like that. 97 was a good year. 97 was a good year. All right, so I got three. Gosh. I got to think of somebody for a good year. On this War Games team. I'm trying to balance it out, too. I'm not trying to make it so top-heavy with, like, main event guys. But,
Right.
I'm trying to find somebody that's going to be... that's going to balance out this
So
team
we each have two picks left, remember? And
Yep,
one of those
them
picks
could
is
be a
going to
redo.
be... Yes.
One of them could be a redo. We have the option of making
Yes.
it a redo, right? It doesn't
Yes.
have to be a redo, but it's the option of a redo.
Yes.
Okay. So I got Hogan, I got Savage, I got Flair. Balance out. God damn, this is tough. I'm trying to look at my action figures here to see if there's anybody.
That's a good call.
I didn't even pick either.
I think I already have my 2 picks in the chamber, so I'm going to wait.
Yeah. Hogan, Savage, Flair on my team. You got Dusty, Arn, and Steve Austin. All right, I guess I am kind of going top heavy here.
Go for it.
Roddy Piper.
Ooh. Roddy Piper. What year?
God. He wasn't part of a lot of Survivor Series because of his runs. His runs were different here. You know what? I'll go 91 Roddy Piper.
91? Oh, I thought you would go earlier.
Yeah, I'll go 91.
I would have said 86.
Yeah, but I'm trying to stick within the bubble, the Survivor Series bubble.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay.
Trying to stick with
All
he
right.
wasn't part of a lot of those, so I'll go 91. So that's 4 for me.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna state my intentions that I have, but based on what you just said, I don't know if I can. Honestly, I was gonna say, because it is Survivor Series, right? Mm-hmm. I was gonna say Kevin Nash. A bit of a War Games killer with the time in the NWO. But I don't know if I can fairly say Kevin Nash anymore because he wasn't Kevin Nash in the War Games.
Well,
or excuse me, he wasn't Kevin Nash in the Survivor Series.
You know who you can say? You can say Diesel 1994 because it was that match in 94 where he pretty much eliminated 3/4 of that team that got people behind him and then eventually led to his championship run.
Fair. Okay. You know what? We're gonna make this fun.
Okay.
Fuck it. It's not gonna be Nash. It's not gonna be Diesel. But
Vinny Vegas.
No.
Oz.
I am gonna go with Bob Backlund, 1994.
Oh shit.
Bob Backlund.
Wow.
1994.
That's a wild card for you.
Put a wild, crazy Bob Backlund into the War Games. Probably the best and most conditioned athlete in the match.
Okay.
Who's just so crazy he has no idea.
All right.
But he's going to make it happen.
Okay.
Bob Backlund, 1994.
So my 5th, so I got Hogan, Savage, Flair, Piper. My 5th and final member of this War Games team. I've thought about a redo, not going to lie. But I've also thought about maybe kind of going down the beaten path a little bit. And my team needs like a big heater, like somebody that, can just come in and totally clean house in the match. And I'm going to go with 1991 Undertaker.
Okay.
As part of my team.
Okay,
so,
which is a redo technically, but not because his 1993 version is on the card. So.
Oh, that's right. You know what? I don't want that.
But you can still use them.
I don't want that. No, I don't want that.
Okay.
I don't want that.
I didn't mean to do that for that reason.
No. I totally forgot. I'm trying to be strict about certain parameters and guidelines. Son of a bitch, I'm thinking. All right, so I got Hogan, Savage, Flair, Piper. That's like 80s, 90s. Hogan, Savage, Flair, Piper. Oh man, this is tough. This is really tough here. I'm looking around, seeing if there's anybody that might be able to stick out here for this team. God damn, this is a tough one. I need a big heater, and I need a big guy that's going to come in and clean house, and I'm going Diesel 94.
Diesel 94.
Diesel 1994.
That's a good one. Okay, Diesel 94.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Diesel.
wild team, if you will. You know, Hogan and Savage are the mega powers, but they can always never trust each other. Flair's the one that's stirring the pot. Piper's crazy, and then Diesel's just the big man that's going to go in there and fucking kill everybody. So, as much as I wanted a balanced team, I'm trying to stack it as well. So you got Dusty, you got Arn, you got Steve Austin, you got Bob Backlund.
Yeah, and I probably do need a little bit of a heater too. Not that I necessarily feel like I have to pick one, but let me think.
Are you looking at someone that you've already used, or you're looking for somebody new?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
Let me see. So Arn 88, Arn 89, Dusty 90, Austin 97, Backlund 94. Let me see.
Can I change?
Sure.
Can I
While
change
I'm
my
waffling
pick?
here. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna change. I'm gonna ditch Diesel 94. As much as I like Diesel 94, I'm gonna go Psycho Sid 1996.
Okay.
Psycho Sid 1996 was unhinged. Okay.
Psycho Sid 19.
He gave Jose Lothario a heart attack at Survivor Series 96.
Yes, he did.
And won the WWF Championship, defeating Shawn Michaels.
Yes, he did.
Sid 96 is very, very underrated. If he didn't care more about his softball career, Sid would have been a focal point, I believe, of the Attitude Era.
Okay. Let me see. Okay, and I'm looking at like the years of my guys, and I feel like I need to like lean a little more in the last 15 or so years to bring someone into the fold.
I'm not trying to build your team, but I got a suggestion for you.
I'm open to it.
Kane, 1997.
I thought about Kane. I did think about him.
I almost put him on my team when I was thinking of a heater.
Yeah, I was thinking about Kane. Not gonna lie. And then I could reuse somebody too.
Yep.
So that's not against the rules. That is the rule. I'm gonna go with because it almost seems criminal that he's not on this card. I'm gonna go Triple H. I don't understand. No, I don't understand.
For a year.
Yeah. Peak Triple H was probably 2000. Yeah. I'm going to say the year 2000 Triple H is going to be the guy. So my team is Arn Anderson 89. Team special contributors is Arn Anderson 89, Dusty Rhodes 1990, Steve Austin 1997, Bob Backlund WWF champion 1994, Triple H was WWF champion for much of the year 2000. You at team kicking out at 2 is Hulk Hogan of 1988, Randy Savage of 1988, and making up the Mega Powers. Ric Flair, the real world's heavyweight champion, 1991. Roddy Piper, 1991, and Psycho Sid, 1996. A lot of beef on your team, I will say.
Yeah.
I think you definitely have a good team there.
You know what I just thought about?
What's
Ironically enough, my team were the last 5, if I'm not mistaken, in the 1992 Royal Rumble match. Or we're in that like final contingent of guys. Hogan, Savage, Flair, Piper, and Sid.
And this is going to sound dumb, but weren't those, taking Ric Flair out, weren't those other guys the nominees, if you will, to face Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8, and they were at that press conference?
They were. And Undertaker was the 5th one.
Yep.
Interesting. how I kind of
funny how that works.
Yeah, how I set that all up. So let's run down this final Survivor Series card, if you will, our fantasy Survivor Series card that we've put together.
So for the first match, we went back way once upon a time. We had the Survivor Series Tag Team Elimination, 10 versus 10. We had 1988's Powers of Pain, the Rockers, the Hart Foundation, the British Bulldogs, and the Young Stallions facing Team Smackdown of 2018. That is the Usos, the New Day, Sanity, Gallows and Anderson, and the Colognes. The women's, Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination match is a run-it-back version of the 2016 match, which was Team Raw, Charlotte, Bayley, Nia Jax, Alicia Fox, and Sasha Banks, against Team SmackDown, Becky Lynch, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, Naomi, and Natalya. The men's Raw versus SmackDown 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match, we have Team SmackDown of 2005. That is Randy Orton, JBL, Rey Mysterio, Bobby Lashley, and Batista facing Team Raw of 2016. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, and Braun Strowman.
That's a stacked match right there.
Hell yeah. And then the women's Survivor Series 5-on-5 elimination match is Team NXT of 2019, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Candice LeRae, Io Shirai, and Toni Storm versus Team Mickie James in 2009, which consists of Mickie James, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, Melina, and Eve Torres. And then our special little semi-main event attraction is the men's Survivor Series elimination, 5 versus 4. 1988's Andre the Giant, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, Dino Bravo, and Harley Race facing off against the 4-person team of the All-Americans in 1993. That would be The Undertaker, Lex Luger, and the Steiner Brothers. And then our main event, the Match Beyond War Games, fantasy booked. Team kicking out at 2, Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage from the year 1988, teaming with Ric Flair and Roddy Piper, both coming from 1991, stepping out of the time machine, and Psycho Sid of 1996, rounding out that team, versus Team Special Contributors. That would be Arn Anderson coming from 1989 to meet up with his familiar friend and rival Dusty Rhodes.
And the polka dots.
And the polka dots in 1990. They will meet up with Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1997, a young whippersnapper of a rising star. And they will be uniting with Bob Backlund, a second-time WWF champion in 1994, and a out-of-this-world, out-of-his-mind, skilled prime Triple H in the year 2000. All coming together to make up Team Special Contributors.
All right, that sounds like a fantasy Survivor Series card. Now, before we wrap this up, you mentioned it earlier, that you think that Andre the Giant's team from 1988 with Mr. Perfect, Rick Rude, Dino Bravo, and Harley Race, something for Dino Bravo to hang his hat on, could quite possibly be the greatest Survivor Series team ever assembled. Mm-hmm. If you were to give me your top 5, no particular order, Survivor Series teams, who would they be?
That's in the top 5. I don't know if I could have the time to put them in order right now.
No, I'm not saying put them in order, but just give me 5 that stand out to you that you feel are in that GOAT conversation.
Team WWF 2001.
Okay, so that was The Rock, Chris Jericho, Kane, Undertaker, and The Big Show. All right.
I might even put Team Alliance 2001 in the top 5.
Stone Cold, Booker T, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon, and Rob Van Dam.
Yep, those are. So that's 3. The more I think about it, I can definitely put, I think, Team Raw 2016 on that list. That is and again, a lot of this comes with hindsight. You know what I mean? With wow, look what that team went on to accomplish all separately on their own. You know what I mean? Even together, Mm-hmm. So I would put Team Raw 2016 on there. Team SmackDown 05 that we threw on the list is another one where you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then, if I have my memory serves me right, let me go back to wrong phone. I would say probably
that DX team in 2006.
I wasn't thinking them, but let me go over to. Is it this one? I would say Team Austin from the Survivor Series.
2003.
Shawn Michaels, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
With, of course, Austin as the captain. That probably rounds out my top 5.
Those rounds out your 5, yeah. Okay, so I got the Warriors with Ultimate Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, and the Legion of Doom. Just on paper, like you said, video game right there.
Yeah.
You look at that, you're like, whoa.
That is a team, yeah.
Yeah, that is a lineup. I'll be honest with you, Hogan, the team that Hogan was on with Jake the Snake and Demolition was a good-looking team, but I just watched that match recently, and it was the Hogan show. Of
course.
Like, it wasn't like... It was all designed to get to the end when Hogan must pose, so to speak. So I didn't feel like... I felt like on paper they looked like a great team, but I don't know. Maybe just the way the match was structured, I didn't feel like they were an actual team itself.
Right.
I love the Randy Savage team from '87 with Steamboat, Duggan, Beefcake, and Jake the Snake. That's in my top 5. I put Austin's team from Survivor Series 2003 in my top 5 with Michaels, Van Dam, Booker, and the Dudleys. That's what, 3? I got 3 there. Trying to think what else. 91, 92, 93, 94, 96, 97. And then it just kind of got weird. I know what I like. 2016, the men's team from SmackDown: Randy Orton, Shane McMahon, Bray Wyatt, AJ Styles, and Dean Ambrose. I think that was a stacked lineup. Like I said, in more recent years, that match itself, the Raw vs. SmackDown men's from 2016, was probably the best Survivor Series match in quite some time.
Yep.
That I'd put, so I'd definitely put that team on there. And to round out my 5th team, trying to think. That DX team from 2006.
I always liked it.
DX,
I guess,
and Punks.
I matured to the logic behind the sweep. Like
I didn't like the sweep at first.
Yeah, I didn't like it at first. While I matured to it, it's a fucking loaded team. You know what I mean? The Hardys were resurged back into the fold. CM Punk was on the rise. DX was doing their thing. I liked that team. I liked their opponents.
Yeah.
Mike Knox at the time was like, oh, this guy could be something. Gregory Helms was finally getting his...
Knox, but yeah, go ahead.
Gregory Helms was getting his opportunity.
Yep.
You know what I mean? On a singles platform, you know, that was more serious because I think we were all kind of tired of the Hurricane. And then Orton and Edge were killing it. So that was a loaded match. It was, again, the way it ended was kind of like, all right, not cool, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I think the pieces in play made you look forward to a longer match, to a more exciting match.
You know, it's funny because, I actually had this conversation with Shane Helms. I was at an indie show with him at the time when he was dating Velvet Sky from TNA. She was working an all-women's indie show in New Jersey. And Survivor Series had just happened. And we were talking about that match. And he asked me what I thought of it. And I just said, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really care for the sweep. It just made all you guys look so inferior. Mm-hmm. And he broke it down for me pretty easily and pretty quickly. He goes, well, look at it like this. He was like, Matt and Jeff just got back together. Mm-hmm. So you kind of got to spotlight them. DX is DX. They're over. You can't, you kind of have to give them some shine as well. And Punk, brand new, just came on the scene. So you kind of kill each one of theirs momentum by eliminating them out of the match. So therefore, why don't we do something that hadn't been done before and do the sweep? However, he was kind of wrong about the sweep because I even said this to him. I go, well, actually, your match wasn't the first match to sweep. This is where my wrestling nerd, memory came into play. And he goes, no, we were the first to do it. And I said, no, the Visionaries in 1990 did it. Martel, the Warlord, and Power and Glory, but it was a 4-on-4, not a 5-on-5.
Now, if you were in that room when they made that decision and you could bring that to Vince McMahon's attention, we may have never gotten a sweep. So yeah. But I will say this though, to the part of it that I think gets forgotten because we get so downtrodden on that sweep was that it was really Team DX versus Team Rated RKO because they were in a storyline together, and then the other three, you know what I mean, were kind of like the side carts of that. They just rounded out their teams respectively.
Well, the others had
they had stuff going on. Don't get me wrong. That was,
other,
but I mean, it was the headline was RKO DX.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like to the point that I think he was trying to make. Like those storylines could be at risk if you try to book the match the way I think the fans would have wanted to see it.
Where it would have been more even, where the baby faces or the heels would have had more of a
like you have to consider the storylines when booking the match.
Like I thought
like what they're currently doing.
Like I thought at that time that because DX was so over and so established, when they put Orton and Edge together and they made them equals, that like my vision of their rivalry was Orton and Edge were gonna come out on top with a win, and it would make them like,
oh, they got one over on these guys.
This new super team, if you will.
Yeah.
Like sort of thing. And when they did that sweep, I felt like at the time, and like you, I've matured to the idea of the finish. But at that time, I was like, well, that totally killed their momentum as a tandem.
Right. Especially
when Orton's in there 5-on-1 at the end, and he's eating everybody's finishers, and I was just like,
what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, you know? But like I said, I've matured to the idea, and then the way that he broke it down and how I was kind of, picturing, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. All right, yeah. So,
but I think to his point, even if it wasn't the first time, it still teed up an opportunity to do something that no one saw coming.
Yeah.
Not even never been done before.
That's true.
But no one saw coming.
That's true, too.
Because you look at those 10 guys and go, holy shit, this is a clash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you expect it to be a classic of sorts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like some people just have, athletes in the athletic realm. Somebody had, all those guys had a bad day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And all those guys had a great day.
Yeah.
So from that element, it was like, go back to gaudy Vince McMahon saying it, anything can happen in the WWF.
Oh, God,
you know what I mean?
That, yeah.
But that speaks to that more so than any type of first-time element to it. Anything can happen.
Yep.
And that's what I thought was really cool about that match and the elements that we talked about to get us to make this an intriguing concept for Survivor Series. You put all these different combustible elements in one place, and anything can happen.
Yeah, and anything did. I mean, we booked ourselves quite the fantasy card. Let us know what you thought on social media with our Fantasy Survivor Series card. Would love all your feedback. Appreciate all your love and support. Click and like and press and play and download and sharing, rate and reviewing, subscribing to this podcast as a part of the Retro Mania Pro Wrestling Podcast Network. It's been a pleasure as always. Hope you all enjoy it. You only got a few more episodes left before the year ends, so look forward to busting out some more content for you when it's needed. But with that being said, I think we survived. We most certainly survived. We strived to survive, and we made it through this close to 2 hours here on this episode of Kicking Out at 2. And I think it's about that time that we put this one down for the 3 count. We'll see you all next time.